Rebecca Ford.
Hi.
So you're here to tell us about Warframe 2.
Yes, the sequel.
So you admit it's real.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no, stop.
So what I want to talk about first is what you learned from 2019, kind of like, yeah, you brought some feedback and everything.
Lessons.
I want to see like what you learned from 2019, and without like as much as you can talk about what your goals are as a team, like Digital Extremes, or maybe even you personally going into 2020.
Okay.
But first, starting with 2019, in general, how'd the year go for Warframe? Like, what were some things that were touchstones for the game?
It was the weirdest year for me personally with Warframe, as well as just the game overall, of like identity searching, about building foundations versus just adding. I think, our last dev stream of the year would have been under a month ago, like December 20th. We sat down, we're like, hey, thanks for the year, here's what we did, here's what we're gonna do. Empyrean had launched, all that stuff. So there wasn't really like a huge focus on retrospect, which we don't often do. So this is kind of the first retrospective conversation I've had with cameras on. So it's like a lot's happening. It's like a rush of thoughts and emotion. But for those streams, you always have to kind of prepare, like, what did we actually do in 2019? So like when you list everything out, you're like, okay, we did a lot, but how did it do? And how did it make people feel? And what did they enjoy and what did they not enjoy? And I think for 2019, because it was following, as numbers work, 2018. Like 2018 was this like rush of holy shit moments for Warframe. It was the biggest TennoCon. It had the wow factor with Railjack. We released an open world, and then 2019 shows up, and it's basically adding to that open world and then setting the expectation that we have to do Railjack in the new war. And in 2019, you have like a competitive landscape for us that you've never had before. So you have all these other games coming out that are like Warframe or kind of like Warframe, some going free to play. So you have all the attention on like, okay, well now it's time to really see what you can do. And we did what we always do, which is we remastered stuff, we released new Warframes, we released bosses, we had another TennoCon, but we didn't do a huge quest really. And Railjack came out and it was just the beginning of Railjack. So it's like, we started something new, but we didn't deliver anything colossal that people, I think, have become used to in terms of double open worlds back to back, I should say.
Yeah, so Railjack now, Empyrean, how has that been? That's still fairly fresh, right?
Yeah, it's not even a month old. I think because it's so new, it's hard to say like, what do people like? Well, I have stats to tell you what people love about it. Or
you prepared.
I prepared a piece of paper because I didn't want to go digital. I wanted to go offline for this.
This was my prep.
That's also your prop.
Prep.
Oh, prep.
Props
also. Okay.
It's misleading. We're not talking about Amazing Eternals at all, but I just figured, I thought you'd think I was cool that I had this.
It is
apparently
cool.
There's a lot of them.
There's not a lot, sorry.
Oh, so I am cool.
You are cool. For real, Empyrean and Railjack, I think because it's so new, it's like, okay, any band-aids we're gonna rip off to rebalance it, they're all probably happening by the time this video goes live, I'm not sure, but today on Wednesday, January 8th, we are working, like I just came back from my phone, on what the first hotfix of the year is gonna be. So at the time of talking, we have not put out the first 2020 hotfix, which really sets the pace for how people will perceive what our priorities are and what we're gonna address quickly, what's gonna sort of wait until we have more data. And the fundamental thing in all the squads I've joined and all the feedback I've read is, holy shit, this is fun, and then there's like a but it's buggy, or but it's too grindy. But because the core gameplay and like the coordination and everything is always being upheld, and then the buts are things that you can kind of fix better and quicker than a core gameplay loop, I'm very optimistic that the 2020 year is going to bring some pretty crazy fun shit, because it seems, based on the things I've read, it's so good, but.
What are some of the things you learned from this feedback? You said this is from one specific survey?
Yeah, so holidays were coming. Steve put out this survey of like, hey guys, 2020 is coming, and what can you tell us about Warframe generally speaking? And we never really have done surveys like that.
It's kind of scary.
It is, and it was fun though. We had 28,000 people replied. Of the 28,000 people, we asked them on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your 2019 year with Warframe? 8 was the average. So 8 out of 10.
For 28,000 people?
Yeah, not bad.
You lying to me?
Well, there's 3 pieces of data we can use there. We can use the mean, median, and mode. So the mode and the median were 8. So 50% of the entries went 8 and above. We're going to show all the raw data later this month, so you can just check it. And the mean, so the average was 7.25.
Still good for 28,000 people.
Yeah, pretty good. So, it's just like, kind of, it's a good spot to be in. Obviously, the greatest would be like a perfect game. But you can't really take that seriously if everyone's like, oh, it's 10 out of 10, it's perfect. Because then you're like, no, it's not.
Just like fanning out.
You're lying to me.
Yes. Or Steve juked the stats.
Exactly.
It's like season 3 of The Wire.
Exactly. I kept the stats and I was like, Steve, you get out of here.
You Lieutenant Daniel'd his ass.
I did.
Now I'm asking you for the truth.
And then when we asked people, one thing we said, what was your favorite thing we did this year? Empyrean. So we did, what was your favorite, what was your least favorite, and generally speaking, what was your most negative issue with Warframe? So when it came, so negative, so for what was your least favorite thing we did in the year, Kuvaliches did win that. So 39% of people voted Kuvaliches was their least favorite. So 61% of people kind of split out across Melee, Empyrean, and other categories there. So
those who are watching who might not know, Kuvaliches are like a cool, like essentially they're your personalized, like kind of procedurally generated based on your actions enemies, like villains, nemesis. But it's interesting because back in 2014, Shadow of Mordor released, it's like, oh, this is the game that everybody's going to try to mimic. But then not many people did, if any. It was exciting to me. It's because I play a lot of Warframe, and Shadow of Mordor is one of my favorite games in the last like decade.
Yep.
What do you think people's problems were with it? Was it the grinding?
Grind and RNG was the biggest issue, and it always is. It's 8 years now of having a game that only is sustained by its grind and RNG. So it's like you need it there, but how do you do it in a way that, and again, so people love most about Warframe is action and combat. So it's really like, how do you do grind and repetition, but keep the action and combat high? Because the most thing people love most about Warframe, of the options we gave, action and combat. Like grind and repetition. So you always, those are like the eternal good and evil that are fighting at each other.
Yeah.
Not to say that grind and repetition are inherently evil. Like it's crazy because like Pokemon just came out and people are farming shinies, and like you look and you're like, you're literally grinding against like a 2%.
Oh, people to breed Pokemon and hatch eggs are like rubber banding their analog sticks to walk around the field.
Like my Skyrim sneak is all rubber band, but not actually. That's not true. I'm not a cheater. Point of the tangent being, how does RNG and grind work in a game like Pokemon versus a game like Warframe, and what are people's thresholds for it? The hindsight we have from last year is, don't start years off with whiteboards, because then you're setting yourselves up for timelines that you just don't know if you can hit. So I think like the broad lesson is properly setting expectations, and the actionable lesson is just communicate more of what those expectations are. Realistically, when you look at 2020 for Warframe, it's like, okay, we endured 2019 in the face of the most intense competition we've ever had as a product, like ever.
So when you say that, like, what would it be like?
Like you just basically, the looter shooter game in 2019 got flipped over. You had, like, I'll say games directly because people will obviously say in the comments, like when you have Anthem, Borderlands 3, and Destiny 2 go free to play in 1 year, and then your Warframe, you're just kind of like sitting there like, hey, we've been here for a while, but those games are really, really, really good. So like you never want to give a proposition to someone that's a Warframe fan that's like, oh, it's our time, or like that's not how we are. So it's just about doing things that make sense for a person who plays a video game to enjoy what they're doing without feeling like they're being punished for not playing.
Speaking of competition, a lot of the times, a lot of the stuff I've been focusing on last year when covering Warframe, and a lot of the stuff that I think a lot of people, because it's like an older game that's been doing so many things right, is there anything that you can point to from competition that the team was like, oh, maybe we could implement that? And if it's not specific, is there anything that you personally like that other games are doing? Like,
yeah, this may come as a surprise, but when Fortnite did their like event that like destroyed the world, like we used to do shit like that.
They're very good at that.
I know, we used to do that, and everyone on our team saw that. I was like, what happened when we blew up relays and like we did all this crazy in-world shit that like changed the world forever. And then, like we want to bring that idea back, that it's, like this is a live system that you're in, and it's not just stagnant.
Are you guys getting to the point now where, I mean, you could have done Warframe 2 like 3 years ago if you wanted to, or 2 or 3 years ago if you wanted to. Came as a surprise to me that Grinding Gear announced Path of Exile 2.
Yes.
And they've already started updating 1 to sort of flow into 2 whenever that releases.
I just read their patch notes.
Yeah. This is the first time when more than like 4 or 5 games in the broader landscape are having that question. It's like, do we even need a sequel?
I don't think we do, and I don't think we should, could, would the question will be like, what happens when people get to mastery rank 30 on their account, right? Like that's sort of like the ultimate sign that like you've played Warframe to the top. And like, is that when Warframe 2 comes out? I don't know. But it'll probably happen this year, the mastery rank 30. But in regards to a sequel and what that means, I don't know. I don't want to add a 2 to it. I don't see how we could.
That might be good if you weren't growing. Maybe that'll like reignite excitement, but growth doesn't seem to be a problem for you.
There's a expression that we're kind of like the theme park, right? You know, people get their ticket, they come, they check out the new ride and they leave, or they stay and enjoy everything.
Yeah.
So we're kind of either building new attractions for people to come check out, or we're redoing the old ones because they're starting to, you know, show some wear and tear.
And this is the first console transition for Warframe ever.
I mean, we were a launch title on PS4, so what our future holds on PS5 and on the Xbox Series X remains, you know, to be seen. I'm super excited if we get a chance to be on them. What do you do with Warframe? Like, at this point, I think everyone's like, I want my account progress here and there. So if we add another console in the console family to the mix, what happens? So I'm just like thinking right now about our database, and I'm like, oh no.
Can you talk at all about, I mean, I know one thing a lot of people are asking for is like cross-save.
Yes.
And I know, did it put a lot of pressure on you when Bungie implemented it?
Oh, totally.
Were they like, oh, they're doing it?
Well, I think I read their fine print about everything as like more detailed. I'm like, how did they do this? Like, how did they do it? Not only technically, but you know, what are the limitations, right? Like, it's not like free saves between. It was like you take it one way or not. Like, it was like, we did the one-way transfers for a limited time only, and we only ever allowed you to go from PC origin seed to console partner XYZ. And there's reasons we can't go from console to the other one. And if you could get around that, if you're, you know, a different developer or publisher, how did you do it? So there's a lot that we have to do to recreate what that did for their community, which was it brought people together on places they couldn't.
Sure.
So
you got New War, that like, it's definitely 2020.
Oh yeah, and if it's not, if December comes and this video is still live and New War isn't out on 2020, you can use that to just right in the jugular.
I have your permission.
Yes.
Okay.
Just kill me.
They heard that and saw that. So New War, managing expectations.
Yes.
And figuring out when you want to make things public, when you want to keep it secret, etc.
Fundamentally, we are trying to entertain the same people that may have been playing the same game for 8 years. So how we do that is going to, it's never going to get easier. So we're doing our best to achieve that, which is why things like Empyrean come along, because it's like, let's just do a whole totally new thing. And yeah, it's just, we'll just keep trying that.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca,
there you go.
for stopping by. Enjoy the rest of your time in New York.
I will.
And good luck with the rest of the year. I'm sure I'll see you.
Yes. There is my threat of my death at the end of this year, so I have to take this seriously.
Oh, yeah, I know. That was your words, not mine.
I know. That's fine.